What's up, guys and gals? It's your host with the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys the latest piece of One Piece, chapter 1101, entitled Dear Bonnie. Now, this review is obviously incredibly late, and I apologize for that, but thankfully, the chapter, in all honesty, happened pretty much what everybody expected to happen. In fact, the fact that a lot of people, everyone was going nuts over the fact that Kuma was going to meet Luffy and stuff like that. I never prescribed to that theory from last week and stuff. So I said, no, he's probably going to find out that Luffy is Dragon's kid. But I don't think they're going to interact in any way. And what would be the point and all this stuff. So Kuma does see Luffy training at 16 years old. So this is, 1 year before he left and stuff like that. And, using his gum axe and all that stuff. He doesn't recognize it as a Nika power or ability. He doesn't recognize it as anything else, as far as I can tell from the dialogue. And then he does talk to Dragon about this at some point anyways. It's sort of ambiguous. It's like, okay, so he's there on the island as a warlord. Then we cut to this scene of, I assume it's a flashback where he's talking to Dragon. And Dragon's basically like, you better be ready to kill me because children are a weak point for people like us, sort of idea. So in a weird way, he's never told Kuma, hey, I'm glad that you have Bonnie and stuff like that, but in our line of work, that's a weakness the world government will exploit, and they did, and they do. But Dragon never warned him beforehand. Like, this was the best he did, was sort of like, he basically said, children, yeah, no. You have to distance yourself and stuff. So Kuma says, I'll forget what I saw and stuff. So Kuma knows that Luffy is Dragon's son by the time Luffy's 16, 1 year before the beginning of the story. So, okay. So we get that information. And then 100% thought that this would happen. I mean, this nurse is basically Nurse Ratchet, right? For those of you who don't know, watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Classic movie. Jack Nicholson. It's fantastic. But the fact of the matter is that she tore up all the letters. We sort of knew that was going to happen. Like, did anybody think that Kuma was going to be allowed to write to Bonnie, by the world government? You didn't think she would intercept the mail and rip up all that stuff? And I mean, it's just adding insult to injury as far as Kuma's backstory being probably the most tragic, the most beaten down, bloodied story you could come up with. Like, everything goes from bad to worse. Like, I remember saying a few chapter reviews ago, saying like, okay, but they got away. Kuma was happy. He had Ginny. He had a wife and he had a kid, and he was happy for... Nope. Oda couldn't let Kuma have that. Oda was saying, no, Griever. No. You think Kuma was the king of this kingdom and happy for even 6 months? No. We're going to have to double down, triple down on the tragedies, right? We have to keep stacking them. Because Kuma's backstory is honestly... I really can't think of a worse one. Like, Robin's is very sad because she went through a life of this shit too. But Kuma went through more hardship for longer, I would argue. Also, as we've discussed before, one of the worst possible situations that could happen is not only did your, the love of your life get by a celestial dragon and stuff, but then ends up with said child, not your child, and then you end up raising that child. Like, and of course Ginny's dead and stuff like that. Like, it's one of those situations that I talked about at the time. It's one of those things that when push comes to shove, so many men will turn and run from that situation, or will not be able to deal with that situation. Does that make them weak? You could argue that. I think it doesn't make those men weak. I think it shows who is truly strong. It doesn't mean that the masses are weak by definition just because someone can put their best foot forward in a situation like that. It's a horrendous situation. I mean, it's you know what, baby. you know, and of the love of your life and stuff. I mean, it's just, what a situation. And Kuma is still here in this chapter while working as a warlord, while being worked on, while she's being recuperated, not being allowed to see her. He's constantly writing to her constantly. And none of the letters even show up. It's just like, Oda just wants to, like, he already twisted the knife 360 degrees. He's going for the 720. You know, he's like, all right, we're back at the beginning. Let's start all over again and keep twisting. That's what Oda's job in this chapter was. To just keep twisting the knife. For the rest of it, though, there's not really, I mean, it's very heartfelt and stuff, but there's not really, outside of a live reaction, there's not really a whole lot more to say other than the fact that finally, when Bonnie was cured and stuff like that, the townsfolk, like the people on her crew as a supernova crew, she basically said, yeah, they were like, let's grab a ship, let's go to the dock, let's get out of here. We're done. And then she Nika punches the Califla woman, what's her name? Anyway, the nurse, the CP8 member and stuff, and basically like, no, like, you think you can run from me? Yes, I do. Boom. And down dirty. Now, here is what I'm sort of failing to understand. The one thing the chapter did not show was, okay, their only leverage was Bonnie, right? And she becomes a supernova a year after this, within the year, right? And she's known as Jewelry Bonnie. Now, Kuma was still working, like, the leverage thing is what I'm wondering about, because yes, they were very worried, like Akainu said and stuff, like, when you escaped from us, like, that was very concerning, blah blah blah. But now that we have you back in our sights and all this stuff, right? It makes sense. But is Kuma really gonna, are we gonna argue that Kuma's that naive and he's gonna keep his word and he's just gonna be like, no, I agreed to this. Jewelry, like, Bonnie escaped, which is fine. But so I'm not gonna go try to contact her because that's our agreement and stuff. I'm wondering, there's got to be at least next chapter they're gonna have a conversation with probably Saint Garcia or somebody, where Kuma's gonna be like, look, she escaped, she's out on her own or whatever. Don't try to find her. I will still hold up my end of the bargain as long as you do not actively pursue her with the full might of the world government. Right? As long as you promise me that, I will continue the surgery with Vegapunk. I will continue the operations and work as a warlord and all this stuff. Because at the time, when Bonnie's already known as a supernova, we see him, Marineford and all this stuff. We see him doing meetings. We saw him at Thriller Bark. He's acting as an agent still of the warlords system, as an agent of the government. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's what's going to happen next chapter, and that Kuma is basically going to say, look, the deal still stands. But there was never any, deal where Bonnie was going to be confined to the church for the rest of her life. She was cured. I've had no contact, I haven't gone to see her, and I'll continue to do the other 3 parts of the deal. So, in the world government's eyes, that is in their favor to say, okay, yeah, we'll let Kuma continue doing what he's doing. He's not going against us, and he's the powerhouse, so it's in our best interest to say, okay, yeah, Marines, try to capture Bonnie, but we're not going to go out like crazy. We're not going to send 3 admirals after her either. So, yeah, there's going to have to be that type of conversation. I don't know when this flashback is supposed to end. Like, we seem to be getting close, but every time I think, okay, the end of the chapter, we're going to jump back to the present, you get a whole nother chapter like this, where it's like, no, I guess there was more to talk about. So, I don't know if this is going to lead into how Jewelry Bonnie became a supernova, or her adventures or something. Like, are we going to do another 10 chapters of this? Like, I'm not sure, but it's possible. So, anyways, the chapter was fine. I apologize once again for missing out on reviewing it, you know, the day of and stuff like that. It's a very late review, but thankfully nothing like, wow, shocking the fan base happened, you know, so I didn't miss out on that. But it is what it is. Hopefully I'm on time for 1102. Hope you guys enjoyed this rather short review, but as I said, I didn't think there was a whole crazy lot to talk about when it comes to this review. So, yeah, that's it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always, and we'll see all you beautiful people back here next time for the next piece of One Piece. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. Bye-bye.